There, and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers. You're probably wondering where we've been in the last year, but we've been doing Zoom programs for a year, and now we're back in the studio, even though our guests will still be via the Zoom.
Yeah, you haven't changed a bit.
Well, we're grateful to the crew here at Oklahoma Christian for welcoming us back into their studio.
It's been very flexible.
It has been. And we got a good show lined up today with Julie Bisbee.
Yes. Yeah, Julie has been the guest three times, and we're really pleased to get her back and talk about what's going on at TSET, because there's a lot going on.
Are you kidding me? She's involved in health care on the periphery and trying to get Oklahomans to make better choices, and we want to hear all about that. It's all coming up today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Right now, 6 feet can feel like a long ways away. But from 6 feet, we can still smile at each other. From our doorways and our stairways, from opposite sides of the street and opposite sides of the country. Through fear and frustrations, we can remind each other that we are still here for each other. Because we can still smile at each other. And we're not going anywhere.
I have a strong tradition of public service in my family. I started out in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I tried to pave the way for tribes to work with state congressional delegations as well as state governments. My name is Franklin Keel. I had a career of public service here in the U.S. and abroad for over 40 years. I'm Chickasaw. After I retired, I really missed public service. And I became a volunteer at the U.S. Air Force Academy and worked at their JAG office as a volunteer attorney. American Indians have a stake in this country. Throughout history, we have fought for this country. Why would they have to ask you to fight for your country? America is not going to improve unless we do it together. I think there's a place for all of us.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Once again, we're pleased to welcome back to the set of The Verdict the Executive Director of TSET, Julie Bisbee. She has been on 3 prior times, and we're really glad to have her back for her 4th. A little background on Julie. She did her undergraduate work at Ball State University, came to Oklahoma and served as a working reporter for a number of years, both for the Associated Press and for the Oklahoman, and then switched gears and joined TSET, most recently in the past couple of years in the position of Executive Director. And she's carrying quite a load there and doing a grand job. Julie, really glad to have you back and glad to hear from you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, Julie, for the viewer who might not be familiar, TSET stands for the Tobacco Settlement, which is kind of the genesis of the organization that you now head up. But basically, it's about the money that was won by the state of Oklahoma in the tobacco settlement case many years ago that has been since used to help improve Oklahomans' health. And that's a very general example of what you all do. But expand on that any way you'd like. How do you describe TSET to the uninscribed?
Yeah, thank you. You know, a lot of people probably know us for the Oklahoma Tobacco Helpline, 1-800-QUIT-NOW. That is our longest running program. And I think for folks that are learning about TSET, it's important to note that we were created by voters, and really our state took a long view. We know that the tobacco industry is going to continue to pay a settlement payment annually, and the majority of those payments are invested in our endowment, and we only use the earnings to improve health.
All right, and I want to jump into I was very topical in 2020, and that was State Question 814. Let's back up the clock. Tell us what 814 was about and why TSET worked against it.
Well, I think it's important to note that we're a state agency, and so we didn't have a counter campaign to the state question. We educated on our impact. State question came about through a legislative referendum, and what the state question sought to do was reduce the amount of money going into the endowment and increase the dollars available to the legislature. There are other campaign groups. You know, we're a state agency, and so we don't lobby. There were other campaign groups that came together to support a long-term investment for prevention, and that's what TSET has been able to do, and what voters affirmed for us to do in 2020.
And the what was the approximate margin of victory?
Oh gosh, that's a pop question. I know that, you know, we had record turnout for our state, and we were pleasantly surprised to see that more Oklahomans voted to affirm our structure than originally voted to create it. So that is a great affirmation from the public, and we take that promise to the voters very seriously and want to have programs statewide that will help all Oklahomans improve their health. What
kind of health calamities, perhaps, have we saved ourselves from enduring because State Question 814 was not passed? What effect would the passage of 814 have had on your operations?
Well, I think it's important to note that really what that question sought to do was to put dollars coming to our state as part of a multi-state lawsuit around the harms of tobacco. It would have put it into the hands of the legislature. And so by preserving the endowment structure, that also preserves the long-term investment in prevention. We know when we're trying to reduce smoking or trying to encourage Oklahomans to be more physically active, that it takes a multi-year approach and a multi-pronged approach. So the affirmation of our structure allows our state to continue to have long-term investments in prevention, which are the most cost-effective ways to improve health.
Now, I know we've talked to you in prior visits about this, but I'd like to cover it one more time. You did mention that TSET is a state agency, but don't you have your own board to whom you answer?
Correct. So we have a board of directors appointed by 7 different elected officials. They are geographically and politically diverse, and that's by constitution. We do not get an appropriation from the legislature, and so we are working on those endowments. We also have a board of investors that oversees the investments in the endowment.
And just approximately the last couple of years, what has been the amount of money received by TSET from the settlement interest?
So typically we've been getting anywhere from about $45 to $50 million in earnings off of the investments. And our budget follows a 3-year rolling average of the earnings. And so our budget for grants and programs has been anywhere from 45 to 49 million. We are very conservative in how we use those dollars, knowing that the stock market and investments can fluctuate from year to year. Mm-hmm. And we saw that last year.
Julie, TSET's 20 years old now. When you look back, what are some of the biggest achievements of TSET?
Yeah, when we started doing this work, the smoking rate in Oklahoma was about 29%. This year, it's closer to 19%. Wow. We, through programs investing in prevention and having the ability to make those long-term investments, have seen our smoking rate decline 10 times faster than other states that have a similar price and policy environment. So it does show, slow and steady wins the race, and it's about preserving and continuing to invest in prevention infrastructure.
And the smoking rate for young people is decreasing, isn't that correct?
Correct. So we've seen that about cut in half for among youth. And this past year, you did see the age to purchase tobacco get increased from 18 to 21. That is a strategy that we know helps to reduce youth initiation. At the same time, though, we are seeing an alarming increase in the number of young people who use vapor products.
And how unique is TSET looking across the country? How many other states have something similar?
We are the only state that has a constitutionally protected endowment. Other states may have followed suit with an endowment, but often what you see in a short-term budget cycle in any state and any legislature is that when there is a need for cash, sometimes that investment in prevention gets eroded. And so it was really with great foresight and long-term thinking that voters created the endowment the way that we did in Oklahoma.
And this semi-autonomous board, is that unique as well? Does almost every other state that has something even remotely similar, don't they rely on elected officials for direction?
Yeah, well, we are unique in that the board does answer to appointing authorities, which include the governor, the attorney general, and other statewide elected, as well as the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate. So we do have that communication, but I think it is important, and we see this with our funding as being reliable. Something that the Stevenson Cancer Center, which is one of our research grants, has said is, this funding allows us to attract other funding, and it is something that is stable from year to year. And now we have a National Cancer Institute Center in our state, and TSET played a large role in that.
Do you have employees throughout the state, or is everyone employed in Oklahoma City?
So we have a lean staff of about 25 in Oklahoma City, but then we have grantees across the state who are doing work. We oversee that work and help develop those work plans. And so we have approximately 65 or so grants across the state for various programs to promote health, promote tobacco cessation, and overall environments that support healthy choices. All
right. Julie, let's jump to a break here. We're halfway through our show on TSET Executive Director Julie Bisbee, and Kent and I'll be back with her when we return on The Verdict.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative. And this year, our competition teams rank #2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
When I came to work for the ODVA, I started realizing the opportunity to take care of veterans. It's a powerful thing when you realize that you are taking care of people that made history.
Working here is a calling. It's really, really important that they don't just come here to exist. We want to give them meaning to their lives. We try to make life happy and meaningful and fulfilled for our veterans.
Back on The Verdict, Mick, Cornett, Kent, Meyers. Kent, where would you like to go now with Julie Bisbee?
Julie, I know that you've got more than one program that you administer, or the cessation of smoking is a big part. Can you run through for our viewers what various programs TSET has in operation today?
Yeah, well, I'd be happy to. Of course, we have 1-800 Quit Now. That's the Oklahoma Tobacco Helpline. In addition to that, we have the TSET Healthy Living Program, which works with communities across the state. And right now, some of your viewers might be seeing that out there because this grant is in the first year of 5, doing their assessment and working with communities to say what are the health priorities in this area and how can we be a part of those local solutions. At the same time, we also have research, as I mentioned, Stevenson Cancer Center. We have the TSET Health Promotion Research Center. And then we also support the Oklahoma Center for Adult Stem Cell Research, really looking at what are those new groundbreaking discoveries that are going to change medicine in the future. At the same time, your viewers may see our public education campaigns that include Shape Your Future, Tobacco Stops With Me. We have resources out there on the website that can help anyone figure out how to incorporate healthy meals or physical activity into their daily lives. And then this year with COVID, we've also added food security grants. We are partnering with Hunger Free Oklahoma to look at an innovative way that grocery stores can use vouchers for fruits and vegetables among folks who may be on SNAP. In addition, we are supporting senior meals through the Regional Food Bank, RSVP Enid, and a handful of other grants really seeking to address that increase in food insecurity because of the COVID economic downturn and isolation.
Well, that's quite a list of programs. I don't know that we'll be able to talk about each one, but I would like for you, if you don't mind, to expand the Healthy Living program a little bit and talk about particularly its application statewide. Talk about what you do and how you do it.
Sure. So the TSET Healthy Living program is a community-based program. We have folks who are from the community working on the grants. That may be a grant to a county health department or a nonprofit or a city, and they are currently serving in 37 counties. This is the first year, and so they're doing a lot of data collection. They're working with local sources to say, where are our greatest health needs and how do we meet them? One of the things that they're doing in this first year as well is pulling community groups together or having surveys to say, what type of health promoting policies would this community support? So that could be anything from working to increase tobacco-free properties. Cities have the ability to make parks or other property tobacco-free, or that could be looking at a built environment. Can you walk someplace safely? Are there opportunities for physical activity? They also are going to be the cog in their local communities around ensuring that there is ample access to fresh fruits and vegetables, whether that's from local producers coming to farmers markets or just highlighting the need for that. We know a lot of communities that's really an issue. So they really serve as that spokesperson and that expert in their local community to put health policies in place, serve as a resource, and serve as a convener.
Julie, I wonder, are you the sole funder in all of these grants, or are some of them matching grants with a local government or a philanthropic effort?
Yeah, so we do have matching dollars. A lot of them may come from the agency where the grant is housed. So we are a large portion of the salary and the work, but it is also important that those who want to participate in this grant are also have skin in the game, because that's the kind of thing that makes that local change sustainable.
Julie, let me ask you about the effect of COVID, if any, on any of your programs, particularly as they relate to smoking.
Yeah, so that's a really timely question. We have seen a national report come out that shows overall calls to quit lines across the country are down. People are dealing with a lot of different issues and finding it hard to think about the tough choice it is to quit smoking. Our state is seeing a decline in our helpline calls as well, but not near the decline that other states are seeing. But I think, for our health community, when this pandemic kind of winds down, there will be work to do. People have been under an incredible amount of stress, dealing with a lot of different things in their job, their family, and for some, smoking is a coping mechanism. So I would encourage anyone to call 1-800-QUIT-NOW and get some coaching help with that. We know most smokers have many attempts quitting before they're successful. So each quit makes you ready for the next.
Julie, I'm guessing that you get stretched into all sorts of ancillary issues, for instance, senior citizen care, mental health aspects. How do you know when to draw the line and say, that's part of our mission and that's not really our mission? A good cause maybe, but not our mission.
Yeah, we have a very broad language in our Constitution, and it does include improve the quality of life for Oklahomans. What our board does when they're taking a look at some of those requests is say, where can we be most impactful? Every entity that does this kind of work has limited dollars. You want to know, where is there an ability to make proven change? Where is there an ability to have sustainable change? And also acknowledging that TSET is the state's largest funder of prevention. There are simply programs happening in this state that if we were not here, it would not happen. And that includes the helpline. And so we have prioritized cessation, and then we look to see what else can be impactful.
Well, let me ask you about your funding and your budget and whether any of it rolls over. Just assume for the sake of this question that you had at the end of the year $2 million left over unspent and uncommitted. Would that roll over to the following fiscal year, or would you just lose it?
Great question. So with the endowment, our dollars stay invested until we need to pay the bills. So we don't take all of that money out at once. We let it continue to work for most of the fiscal year. So if we have money that is unspent, it will stay in the fund and it will stay invested. Or we could look, potential short-term high-impact grants. Our board has done that, and the food grants are a great example of that. But thankfully, those dollars stay invested until they need to be put to use.
Julie, how do you coordinate or work with the county health departments in Oklahoma County and Tulsa, and as well as the state health department?
Yeah, great question. So we have grants with the Tulsa City County Health Department, as well as Oklahoma City County Health Department through our TSET Healthy Living program. And then the State Department of Health, we've long been partners in this effort to improve health. The State Department of Health works with us on the data surveillance. That's something that they are excellent at, and there's no need to duplicate those services. So we work with them on that. We work to coordinate our efforts at the community level, and we have shared goals around reducing obesity and tobacco use in the state.
Do you keep track of what causes a particular caller to call the quit line, whether it's a public relations campaign or pressure from some family member or some other cause? And if so, what are the primary reasons you're finding that current smokers are opting to try to quit?
Yeah, we do some surveys just to evaluate the effectiveness and evaluate our quit rate. And one of the questions that we ask callers to the quit line is, how did you hear about us?
Yeah.
And the majority of them hear about the helpline from television commercials. And that continues to be a place where we can meet people who are interested in quitting smoking. Healthcare providers are also a great source of referral to the helpline. Doctors and nurses can be very influential in reminding patients of the health improvements they will see for quitting smoking. And, often what we see with folks who successfully quit is that they're starting to experience the negative health outcomes from years of smoking. So it's our goal always to reach people younger so that they can quit sooner and add to their quality of life.
Julie, about 30 seconds left. What would you ask the Oklahomans watching today? What do they need to know, or what can they do to help you?
Yeah, well, I think always you should be encouraging your community to be healthy. If there's an effort to promote walkability, if there's an effort to promote tobacco-free environments, that's going to win in spades and pay off for generations to come. I think it's also important for your viewers to know that we still have gaps in our clean indoor air law. And so as those conversations come up, there is no safe exposure to secondhand smoke, and it's important that the public demonstrate their support for that.
Julie Bisbee is the Executive Director of TSET. Thanks for being with us. Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
It used to be okay in teachers' lounges. It used to be okay in maternity wards. It was okay in sporting arenas, college campuses, and office spaces. But now that we understand the deadly dangers of secondhand smoke, that's not okay anymore. So why is it okay that thousands of employees are exposed to it every day at work? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's protect hardworking Oklahomans. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
I think for us, once we got started and we began to see the tremendous need just within our state, it really was just a calling for us. The blessings far outweigh any obstacles that we've faced.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick, Cornett, and Kent Meyers wrapping up the show with Julie Bisbee. She's the Executive Director of TSET, and I think TSET's in good hands. Julie's a great spokesperson and administrator over there.
Yeah, indeed. She's been there as Executive Director about 3 years and just doing a bang-up job around the community. She's widely respected and pays attention to what's going on and knows what she's talking about, and runs a very fine agency.
Tobacco use from 29% down to 19%. What more do you need to know?
Wow.
All right, a couple of websites. Julie can be reached at tset.ok.gov. And we have a website, theverdict.tv. Tell us about a guest you'd like to see on a future show, and that's going to do it for this week's show. For Kent Meyers, I'm Mick Cornett. We hope you'll go to our website and tell us about a guest or a subject you'd like to see on a future edition. But for now, that's going to do it. I want to thank Julie Bisbee, the Director of TSET, for being on our show today. And we'll have another exciting guest next week. We'll see you then.